What is up, everybody? Thank you for tuning back in. This will probably be the final video in this tutorial series. This will be on the Terrain Creator. And the reason I only need one video on this one is because I think it's set up a little bit better than the base creator in terms of the user interface and just the workflow. I think it's set up in a way that's a little bit easier to manage, a little less complicated, so I think people will be able to get an understanding of how it works much quicker, much more easily. So we're going to jump into that right now. Now that we've covered the base creator, we'll go back to the Select Script tab up here, and we're going to click on Terrain Creator, and that should wipe away everything in our scene, and it should replace it with this. So you'll notice this time things look pretty similar. I did add some interesting, or maybe slightly more visually appealing, I guess, well, visual aspects to this one. I added some kind of glossy materials to all the assets. I don't know if that's nice looking or distracting, but I'll let you guys decide, and if you like it, I'll update the base creator and add a similar look and feel, and if people don't like it, well, I'll just get rid of it. But I think it looks kind of cool. Everything looks a little shinier and more interesting. And this one only has 2 tabs. And this one's also interesting in that there is a drop down here to select the current asset like there was in the previous, in the base creator, but you don't have to do that anymore. I've gotten rid of that, or well, I've left it in there, but it's sort of redundant now, because what you can do is anything can be selected just by clicking on it. And like I said before in one of the previous videos, that seems like a really obvious thing to do, but just the way it's the program's set up and the way Blender works, that wasn't necessarily the easiest thing to do, but I think it works pretty well in this program, so it's probably something I'll implement in the base creator as well in future versions, hopefully the next version. So you can click on any asset to select it, in which case it'll turn red. This is the only one in there right now, and we've got these little widgets, these glowing widgets in the middle, and those are what actually place the assets, as opposed to buttons on the panel or on the tab. So you can just click on one of these and it'll add a new tab, and all of those widgets will snap to that new base's location. Everything's sort of based around the current base. So if we click on one, everything will snap to there. And that's pretty much how you place bases on this one. So pretty quick and easy. You'll notice at the top in that Terrain Creator tab, there's an initialize button. That'll wipe everything and reset the whole scene, which you shouldn't really need to do unless you come across a bug or an error or something like that and just need to restart. Normally you can just click the reset button. That'll just get rid of the assets that you've placed and reset the scene. But much like the previous module, you can import add-ons, and let me see if these are already imported. Nope. I'm going to go ahead and import some of the new ones, and maybe a few old ones as well. That should look pretty good. And what you will use the tabs for is selecting the current theme. So I'm going to go with, I'll add some more sci-fi stuff. And you can select the asset type. We're going to stick with base just for now. And then you select the specific asset you want. So you can, again, go with random selection. In which case, it'll do pretty much what it sounds like. It'll add a random base from that theme. That may not be the best option, just because you might get a lot of, well, obviously random stuff on there. So you might want to be a little more particular about what you want to place and what you want and where you place it. So yeah, that's pretty much the basics of placing a base, though. And you'll notice, maybe you'll notice some of these on the previous version, some of the bases were thicker than others. Others were thinner. When adding assets, the code attempts to rescale all of these assets to create a sort of somewhat unified scale. So it'll kind of resize things so that everything comes in at a sort of similar scale, which may look good, but it may also not be what you're going for. So you can select a base like this one. This one, technically, because of these, pipes and tubes and stuff like that, it's been rescaled so it's the same thickness as all the other bases, but that's not really where the floor is. The pipes are kind of on top, but obviously the code doesn't know that, at least not yet. If you want to change that, you'll just click on the base you want, and you can adjust this height slider to change the slide of the base until you get something you like. So that's pretty much what you do there. If you'd like to change that height. You can also change the rotation by using the rotation slider, and it'll keep everything sort of perpendicular, so it'll only change when you've reached increments of 90 degrees. So that's how that works. And as before, like I said, you can select assets from the drop down here, but everything is sort of based on individual bases. So every time you click on a different base, it'll show you only assets attached to that specific base, any walls or windows and whatnot. So right now, if you click on this, there'll only be that base in there. But to add some walls, you'll click on Wall in the asset type, and you'll notice those widgets changed a little bit to show these little glowing blue rectangles now. And I'll pick this wall, just add one there. And like I said before, you can just switch between assets by clicking on them, which I think is way easier than using the drop down like you had to in the original version. So there's that. That will make things a lot easier. I'll just add a couple more walls here, and I'll add a few walls from one of the other themes as well. And with all of these, you can change the height and the thickness and all that good stuff. But you can also add a few other things. As you can imagine, you can add doors. So I'll go with, we'll see. There's a door. You can change the thickness and the width, all that good stuff. Let's see, I'll pick another one too. Oh, we already looked at that one in the last one. Let's do this one. And like I said, it tries to rescale, to resize things when they're added. So some of them will come in maybe a little bit smaller or a little bit larger than you'd like. So no problem, just change the height and the thickness or whatever you need. Not that one. Until you get something you like. So there's that. I'll add some windows too. You'll probably be a little bit more, you'll probably hopefully take a little bit more time than I am to place things and make things look nice, but right now this is just for demonstration purposes. So for these ones, you can also place those sort of wall decoration assets that we talked about in the last version. So you can add stuff, or in the last tutorial, so you can add stuff like that to the wall. Change the height and thickness. Let's pick an actual window though. You just click on the assets you want there, and I think this is another one of those errors where something isn't cutting out perfectly from the wall, because you'll notice when I change that thickness a little bit, sometimes the wall cuts back in. That's basically the same error or the same issue we had on the bases earlier. And like I said before, if you just adjust it a little bit, it'll usually resolve itself. It's like I said before, it's usually just pieces of geometry overlapping it's usually just geometry overlapping perfectly, which makes it hard for Blender to calculate. So if you just change it a little bit, eventually you'll get the results you want. So either resize it a little bit or just move it slightly to the left or the right or up or whatever, and eventually you will get something you want. So that should pretty much cover that. I'll add another window here just for fun. So yeah, you can add anything you want and change the dimensions, all that good stuff. There are a few other things you can add. As with the previous tutorial, or one of the previous tutorials, you can add columns. And let's see what we get if I just do a random selection. So you can add a column, and I should point out that you can move them slightly over the edge of an individual base, which may look good depending on what you're doing. It may create a more natural looking environment or setup, so that not everything is, perfectly confined to each square tile. But I should point out that when you export these, there are a couple of options. You can either export everything as one model, or you can export each tile individually. So if you're going to do that, I would recommend against doing this, against taking advantage of the full, taking advantage of the full location slider. And I would try and place everything as close as possible on the tile that it's placed on, because otherwise you might have some trouble fitting them together once they're printed. But like I said, you can combine everything into one model that gets printed all together, in which case that might even look better. So that's the columns, and you can place large assets in the same way, and these just get placed right in the middle of the tile. But you can move those around and rotate them and change the height and all that good stuff. And again, just switch to a different asset, just click around, and that's pretty much it. So that's really all you need to know to, what did I do there? I must have clicked somewhere else. That's pretty much all you need to know to create with the Terrain Creator. It's pretty straightforward, I hope, but that's pretty much it. Just repeating that as much as you'd like. And when you've gotten a scene that you like, you can go to the Finalize tab. And this is that setting I talked about before. You can check Combine All, and that'll export everything as one piece. Or if you just click Export, the default is it will export each tile separately. So it'll grab everything on this tile, so this tile, this door, this wall, and combine that onto one. It'll do the same on this floor tile, this one, and so on and so forth. So I guess it's just up to you in terms of what you want to create and what size your printer is. I would keep in mind the size of your printer and the file size that gets exported as well. Each of these floors are 50 millimeters by default, so don't create something that's too big to print. And if you create something really, really big, it might increase your slicing time a bit. And it's always cool to have things you can, you know, switch around and assemble in different ways. So I like to export everything as separate pieces, but again, that is up to you and what you're trying to create. So you can do that, or you can also click the render button. But that is pretty much it for both the Base Creator and the Terrain Creator. Thank you for watching these videos. Thank you for backing the project. You guys, it's been awesome. I had a great time doing all this. The original Kickstarter project was very fun, and so was the last couple of weeks or months putting this together. I think this was a big update. I think you guys will get a lot of value out of it. I think you'll have a lot of fun with it, and I'm sure there'll be little issues and bugs here and there, so I'll be keeping an eye out over the next couple of weeks. Definitely hit me up if you see anything. Send me a message or a tweet or whatever, or I'll put some more information on the next Kickstarter update. But yeah, let me know if you come across anything, and hopefully there won't be much of that, but if there is, I'll get it fixed quickly, and yeah, hopefully the next version will be even cooler. Thanks again, guys.